So this gives some of the information, sets that up. Our current population is 60,000. We're projected to triple over the next 30 years. And that's a projection by Triangle J. Our school enrollment is expected to increase about 4% every year. And this is based on a study that North Carolina State has done. Our current budget is $76.5 million, and our current property tax rate is 61.7 cents, which is about $926 on a $150,000 home. The land transfer tax, in summary, is assessed one time when property is sold. It's based on 0.4% of the sales price, and it will be combined. The Board of Commissioners have voted that if the land transfer tax is approved, that they will reduce the impact fee from its current level of $2,900 down to $1,900, and that was approved on August 20th. It is assessed on basically all real property exchanges. There are some exceptions which we'll go over. It's paid at the closing, and the seller is responsible for paying it. As Commissioner Lucier has already said, the commissioners have voted that 85% of the proceeds of the land transfer tax will be dedicated to schools. This shows the impact on different valued housing or land. Property that sells for $100,000 would pay $400 in land transfer tax, and property selling for $300,000 would pay $1,200 for land transfer tax. The revenue generated is a little bit confusing, so I'll try to go through that simply. The 4.4% land transfer tax would generate $3.5 million. When we reduce the impact fee, if the land transfer tax is approved, we're going to lose about $1 million in impact fee revenue. Okay, so the net is not the 5 cent, or not the 3.5, but the 2.5 million. That translates into 3.4 cents on the property tax. If the land transfer tax is not approved, the impact fee will stay at $2,900, and that will generate about $3 million a year to pay for schools. And what we're using that for is to pay school debt on the schools that are already in the capital plan. It would not give us capacity to borrow additional funds for new schools or to do renovations to existing schools. These are the items that are excluded from the tax. That is spelled out pretty well, I think, in our handout, so I'm not going to insult you by reading to you. The tax does cover all real estate sales, exchanges of money for property for money, and deeds applying to nonprofits and religious groups. It also applies to timber deeds. New homes in the county there will be a different effect on the land transfer tax because it's based on value. Right now, everybody who builds a new home, whether it's a mobile home or a $1 million home, pay the same impact fee of $2,900. With the land transfer tax and the reduction in the impact fee of $1,900, those whose homes are valued at $250,000 pay the same. Those whose homes are valued at less than $250,000 would pay less. And those whose homes are valued at more than $250,000 would pay more. Does that make sense? It is true, though, that the land transfer tax applies to all real property exchanges, not just new housing. This is our the county finance office projection of the revenue over the next 5 years. I will say this is a conservative estimate. The revenue of Register of Deeds revenue deed stamps have actually grown at an average of 21% every year for the last 21% for the last 7 years. So that is a very high growth revenue in Chatham County right now. The land transfer tax is based on the very same sale or exchange. So these estimates are based on the land transfer tax growing at 5% a year. So if our rate of growth continues, then the revenues will be substantially more than that. Okay, how will the revenues be used? By state law, we can use the land transfer tax for anything that we use property tax for, which is basically any lawful purpose of county government. But the county commissioners voted that we will restrict 85% of the land transfer tax to go to new school needs and renovations. The county's current 5-year plan, what we have put in our capital budget and what we can pay for with the revenues that we have on hand, are a new high school in the Northeast and a new middle school at Briar Chapel. Many of the schools in the county are already overcrowded, and some are in need, and nearly all of them are in need of major renovation. If the projections are true that the school's population will grow by 4% per year, we will need a school about every 2 years. And that's a $25 million, for elementary schools, that's about a $25 million proposition. For high schools, it's 45 plus in the out years. So right now, all we have the money to pay for are the high school and the middle school that are in the capital plan. If we get approval for the land transfer tax, this is it's kind of like your home mortgage. You know, you can go to the bank and qualify for a loan based on your income. Well, we will be able to qualify for more money if we have an additional revenue source. And we could potentially borrow up to $43 million next year in additional funds to pay for new schools or for renovations to schools. Now, there are a lot of other factors that affect how much the bank lets you borrow, like your creditworthiness and so forth, as you know, with getting a mortgage. So it's not just that simple, but it certainly does give us more debt capacity. Commissioner Lucier spoke about the each revenue source and the amount of funds that it brings in. So I want to talk a little bit about that. The quarter-cent sales tax was our other option from the General Assembly. And sales tax is not a great revenue source for Chatham County. I'm sorry, I'm blocking it. Especially the way that this sales tax would be distributed. It's going to be distributed based on what people spend in the county. Right now, I read a study that showed we have the 3rd highest per capita income in the state. And that might shock some of you. But we also have the 80th highest out of 100 counties, or 20th lowest, I guess, out of 100 counties in retail sales per capita. So that shows that our sales tax money is leaving the county. And it wouldn't say this is not as significant a revenue source for us. The 1 cent property tax will bring in about $720,000 next year. We do get money from the education lottery. Right now, all of that money is programmed into our debt model. So that money from the lottery will also go to pay debt service on the schools that have already been approved. A school impact fee at $1,900 brings in $2 million. The school impact fee at $2,900 brings in $3 million. And the proposed land transfer tax brings in $3.5 million. And these are the sources for that information. So I think it's important to talk about how the impact fee and the land transfer tax differ. As I've already said, the school impact fee is flat. It doesn't matter how much the housing costs, you pay the same. And the land transfer tax obviously is based on the value, so you pay more for higher priced housing. The school impact fee applies only to new housing, whereas the land transfer tax applies to all real estate exchanges. The school impact fee is paid by whoever gets the building permit. So that might be the developer, whoever's constructing the house, or the homeowner. The land transfer tax, the seller is responsible for paying that. The school impact fee is dedicated solely to schools, school capital needs. The land transfer tax is not restricted by law, but as I've said this before, the commissioners have voted that 85% of the land transfer tax will be devoted to school needs.